G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach for DR and welcome to the 2022 season review. Hope that you had an absolute ripper of a year. I can't believe it's all over. I know for some of us it seemed like a very long season at times, had those sleepless nights thinking about your side. For others, it's more of a casual type thing. For others, like myself, it's a little bit more serious. But congrats wherever you finished, whether or not you finished in the top 1%, in the top 5%, 10, 50. It really doesn't matter because your main objective with the game of SuperCoach should just be to have fun. And that's the most enjoyable thing for me is meeting new people, having a good chat, getting involved in some banter. That's the beauty of SuperCoach. And hey, there's only one person that could finish first. Congratulations to JP. Massive season from you, mate. I know you've been playing for a long time. So thumbs up and congratulations, mate. Very, very well done. Look, what are we going to do for this video? Well, we'll obviously take a look at how the team finished up, do a bit of a team review, I suppose you could say. Then we'll take a look at some of my trade history, talk about my worst trades, my best trades, talk about some lessons learned, and obviously give a shout out to the members of the channel. You guys have been a wonderful support, and to all the subscribers, and just for anyone, even if you're not subscribed, just for checking out some of the videos. I really, really do appreciate it. So I will give some special thank yous at the end as well. And what I will try to do is actually put some timestamps in. I don't actually know how to do it, but I have been told by a few people it's relatively easy. So once I upload the video, I'll do my best to work out how to do that quickly and chuck some timestamps on there in case there's just a particular section that you might want to get to. I won't talk about any 2023 players in this video. I might leave that for a bit of postseason content. I don't know what I'll be doing over the postseason. Might do a couple of podcasts with spills once the finals get going. If you've got any suggestions, just let us know. But for the majority, I'll be keeping pretty quiet, I think, having a bit of a break. And I do have Sun number 3 on the way, due around the 3rd of October, pretty close to the grand final as well. Not that I think that Brisbane will be involved this year. I think we may be just making up the numbers after last week's performance. And, oh man, that was a dagger. I'll tell you what now, captain. Don't even get me started about him. Don't even get me started about him. His position is absolutely untenable at the moment. I'm embarrassed to have him leading the club. I won't get into it. We're not about Dane Zorko here, but I might even leave that for a separate video. If you're really interested in hearing my thoughts, if there's enough people out there that I suppose want my say on it, then I'm happy to do that. But if not, I'll keep that one to myself. But look, at the end of the day, I did manage to get a top 1% rank, and I just snuck into the top 2K. I didn't think I'd get there a couple of weeks ago, but I have had 2 really strong weeks to finish off the season. Definitely had some ups and downs as well. There was one stage I was really gunning towards the top 1,000, I thought. Around the buys, I was around 2K. Pretty nice rank, had some trades in the bank. Just a few things didn't work out for me, unfortunately. But there's always next year, and I will get in some planning pretty soon. I know that Jono and Causa, H, a few of the other members of the channel, great bunch of blokes, have already started their planning, got the Google Doc going and all this sort of business. So very, very keen, and I will join them soon enough, but I plan on having a bit of a break, as I said. But look, for this round, 24.87 was a pretty decent score, and the final season rank is 1958. So as I mentioned, just climbed into the top 2K, got there by the absolute skin of my teeth. So look, that's it for the intro. We'll start off by taking a quick look at how the team's looking, and then we'll go into a bit of my trade history. Now, it is a little bit frustrating to still have 30K sitting in the bank there. I'll tell you what, there were certainly times during the season where an extra 30K could have done wonders. So yeah, it is a little bit frustrating, but the trade that I did decide to make in the last round of the season, remember I did have one up my sleeve. It earned me a few points, but nothing like I was expecting. There's a big omission here, and that is Mr. Jack Sinclair. I was absolutely sure I thought 100% lock it in that Ryan Clark will give him a hard tag. I didn't actually watch the match, but I'm assuming that he didn't, because I think that Sinclair got around a 116 to 118 from memory, which was disappointing on, I suppose, from my behalf, given the fact that I decided to trade him. But if I had have traded a Crisp, for example, looking at the other names around him, I thought they've probably got just as good a chance as Crisp as going good or going bad. So at the end of the day, I decided to get Shannon Hearn in. And look, it was a good move bringing him into my side because he did score 120. The method behind the madness there was the fact that he's playing down the category, had one of the best 3 round averages. Well, I think the best 3 round averages for all defenders. He's the kick-out king down there as well. I thought he'd get a fair bit of the peel, and all of that basically transpired at the end of the day. Got 30-plus touches, so great to have him just for the 1 week. But to be honest, I sort of regret it. I would love to have Jack Sinclair sitting here just for pure respect, because that man was fantastic when I brought him into my side, and only really let me down for the 1 week all season, which was against Sydney. Maybe I just had bad memories, and yeah, but I can't believe that Clark didn't go to him. But another story there. Dawson Vone for 3 weeks now, so the 2 weeks prior to this were really solid. I think it was about a 106, and then that massive 140 plus. So a 74 is really disappointing to end the season. I was expecting at least a ton from him, but if I look at the 3 weeks as a whole, then he still averaged pretty well for me, which is okay. Assists with a 134. What a way to end the season. Unfortunately, I didn't start with this man, but I did bring him in relatively early on in the season. I realised that there was value there at the price that I got him at. And really, when he actually went low, it wasn't disaster type stuff, was he? Had a really high floor, which was handy, and also had a really decent ceiling. So 113.5 for a season average is absolutely phenomenal. And I don't think there would have been too many people that would have expected him to go so well this season. I know he was a pretty popular starting pick, but I don't think there were many that would have pegged him for a 113 plus average. So phenomenal season from him. Will be very expensive next year though. The Doc, it was really solid for me. Look, we did see some low games from him, but what we did see the last couple of weeks was Doherty the midfielder, and wasn't that fantastic for his scoring? So a lovely 138, fantastic score the week before, I think it was a 120 odd. That is absolutely brilliant for us. So, look, does that continue on into next season? I don't think so, because they do have a pretty thick midfield. But remember, Walsh was out, Hewitt was out. Yeah, they just didn't have enough soldiers in there. So, I assume that was just, a short-term type move for Doherty. But at least we know that he's got it in him. And if required, he could be a bloke that they move back in there. Tommy Stewart, this one just did not work out for me. Can't believe that he got tagged in those 2 games. I was expecting one of them, but not necessarily against the Suns. I thought, what is happening here? Lemons and then Mac Andrew. But yeah, that was a really frustrating pick for me. And I thought this would give me a great advantage on the competition, because there wasn't too many coaches that were in a position to bring him in or even back into their side. So yeah, unfortunately it didn't work out for me. A bit of a frustrating one to end the season, but it is what it is. And talk about frustrating, Jack Crisp. Now, I thought I'd get a couple of things from him this season. The first one, and this is a tick, that he'd play every game. Mr. Durability, we all know that. We know what we're going to get with Crispy, and that's the fact that he will play every game. Unfortunately, though, I pegged him for a 100 to 105 average, and he didn't even get to a 95. Even during the early to mid stage of the season, I really thought that 105 was still achievable, but basically didn't give a yelp, did he, to end the season. So super disappointing. I did have the option of trading out either Crisp or Short. The fantasy gods on Twitter threatened me if I did trade out Crisp a few weeks ago that he would go 100 plus. That actually occurred. He did go 100 plus, so I thought, wow, great decision here. But unfortunately, Shorty just decided to turn things around the last 2 weeks of the season. So that really hurt me. Lost out, how many points there? At least 50 points, I think, at the end of the day. Massimo on the bench, look, he was all right. Brought him in during a time of need. He provided some cover for a couple of weeks, in and out of the side, but I think Essendon have a real play here. Made 240k basically by the end of the year. Dirksen, this worked out well, but not. The whole idea of getting Dirksen in was to have a loophole, but also to have flexibility with my Paddy McCartan emergency loop. So I was really keen on keeping on to some strong bench cover. And Paddy was that man, because I thought he can cover between 2 lines. He's the ultimate rookie to have, Sydney's best 22. We know that he'll play every week if fit. But the issue with getting Dirksen in was the fact that I didn't realise how many early games GWS had to actually end the season. So that was a little bit frustrating, the fact that I couldn't really use him in my loop a lot of the time, but did provide some good flexibility for me. Onto the midfield now. So, look, pretty solid at the end of the day. Obviously, one glaring omission, and I'll talk about that man when we get to my lessons learnt. But I finished with Oliver, Took, Track, Neil, Cripper, Zerrett, Brayshaw, and McRae. Look, they all really had their moments during the year, and every one of these blokes also had some down moments as well. We saw Clary with a fantastic season. Look, you cannot fault this man, but obviously missed that week. Came back after his fractured thumb, a little bit quieter. Some lower scores there for his high standards. But if you look at the year as a whole, absolutely fantastic from this man. I was really, really keen on starting him. Couldn't quite do it in the end. That was mainly because of my big love for Tuke Miller. But I did bring him in at a pretty nice time, and he, was basically a perma captain for me each and every week. Had him in the loop almost every week, Clary. So hats off to this man. I'll definitely be starting with him again next season. And this is my man, Tuke. So there was a stage of the season where I thought, I've given people the wrong advice here. At the start of the year, I was just red hot on this pick. We know what his work rate's like, his leadership. He can find the pill. He could get through tags last year. That's what the data suggested. But did struggle a little bit more this year with the tag. But in saying that, he had some massive, massive matches. Had a really, really hot streak to end the season as well. But we really did see a lower floor from him this year. So that was disappointing. There were some weeks where we thought, wow, is he even going to end up in the top 5 midfielders by season's end? I did have some concerns, don't get me wrong, but I've always had really strong faith in this pick, and 120 plus average by the end of the year is fantastic. So super, happy that I started with Tuke. Track, very up and down. So I did mention the stocky that his post-buy numbers last year were really, really positive. And I'll have to check out what his average actually was, but I think it would be pretty similar to what he did last year. We were super frustrated with some of the lower scores that he did produce, but when we look at his ceiling, got that massive 180, a few 130s shown in there as well. Everything did seem to balance out as well. So a solid type pick for Trucker, but with a season average of 112, just didn't really mix it with the big boys this year. This man certainly did, and I expect him to take home another Brownlow this year, fingers crossed for Lockie. But with the price that we got him, it was mid-500s to start off the season. He was the definition of an absolute no-brainer. Had a tough season the year before, off-field, back issues, some calf issues that I don't think was really publicised at times as well. So to see him in full fitness, and it was pretty evident pre-season that he looked back to his best. We just saw the best of him this year. 122.8 was a great average to, I suppose, sum up the season, but he did really taper off towards the end. It was looking like he'd probably average 130 after a period there. So that was slightly disappointing, and towards the end of the season, I tried to avoid having him in my captain's loop if possible, because he was just giving us some average type scores. We didn't really get to see that big ceiling towards the end of the season, but overall, super solid season. Cripper with a 121 to end. I did have him as my captain this week. I thought Tuke's got the best chance of scoring big, only gave us 104, so I thought, well, I didn't really expect that I'd have to select another captain, but it was out of Zeret and Cripps. I just thought Cripper, being a big game, Carlton would have to win, in my opinion. I would have thought to make it through to the finals. Unfortunate that they didn't, poor Carlton supporters, but this was a super, super solid game from Cripps. I think he went past his PB for contested possessions. It was 25 plus, I know that much. He was an absolute machine, and super frustrating as well that in the first quarter, he spent 10 minutes on the pine. That was, there we go, got a notification. I wonder what's happening. There's been a bit happening, hasn't there, lately in the AFL. But look, I brought in Cripper, and you'll see my trade history just before the first price rises. He looked like an absolute must-have. And, he gave me some really good weeks. And then there was that stretch for about 5 or 6 weeks where he just did bugger all, basically. He just could not get himself to 3 figures. Lots of people end up trading him out, as I would have as well, if I had the trades, but decide to do other things with them. But he really did have a strong last 3 to 4 weeks. So wrapped that I didn't trade him out of the side and kept on to him. He ended up delivering. And 111 for a season average. If you started with this bloke at his lower price, you would have been really, really wrapped with what you did. Zeret was a fantastic trade for me. Up there with the best trade-ins that I made. 150 to end the season. He just went from strength to strength during this game. Really made up for the last couple of weeks where he gave us those 70 type scores. But remember, before those couple of 70s, he went on an absolute mad stress. I think it was 5 weeks where he didn't go under 134. I think it was from memory. So super trade-in for me. Season as a whole, a little bit up and down, 112. Basically the same as what Track delivered for us. Brayshaw was a solid pick without being fantastic. Had his low games, had his bigger type games. I didn't really get one of those huge ceiling games from him, but I did get some nice 130s. Went on some nice stretches here, but did give me some low games, and it just seemed like whenever I was playing someone that didn't have Brayshaw, that's when he'd give me a average type score. And whenever my opponent did have Brayshaw, that's when he'd decide to go big. But it just seems like that sometimes, doesn't it? You feel ripped off. And Jack Macrae, this is going to be a really interesting one for me. I'm going to really dive into his numbers post-season here, because automatically I think to myself, I'm just not going to start with him next year. But if we look at what he's going to be starting at this year compared to previous seasons, there might be a little bit of value there. So, yeah, I was really disappointed with what he delivered this year. At the start of the season, he was absolutely on fire. I just thought, well, I'm going to have him as my captain every week. Just leave it on him. You don't even need a vice captain, but things just changed. Roles changed. We know that the doggies midfield runs extremely deep, so that was a little bit frustrating this year, Jack Macrae, but still 115 average is nothing to scoff at, is it? And then Owens, Rioli and Cully. Cully I just didn't use at all. Rioli, man, it was a frustrating pick, wasn't it? Whenever I need him, the bloke gets like an 8 to 10 type score. When I have him in the pine, that's when we get a 70 or a 60 type, but 47 to end the season. Well, if you look at that tough week that we had for the rookies, it was either Rioli, Carroll or Hamilton. He's clearly worked out the best out of those three anyway. So, yeah, hats off to Rioli. A decent season from him. And then into the rucks. So, Witsy, he was phenomenal for me. I brought him in again just before the first price rise at 380k. He went from strength to strength. Ended up just getting a bit of a feeling about him during the buys. Traded him out to Nank. That didn't work out quite well because Nank had that knee concern. Ended up playing the next week and playing all right, but that did spook me. So I started with Gawn, had Wits in, traded Wits out for Nank, traded Nank out for Wits. And the only reason why I did go back to Wits from Nank was the fact that he was a really highly owned player in the top 5k and wanted that as a bit of insurance policy. I just thought I'll go with the crowd on that one. Won't go too different. So, yeah, a disappointing end to the season, but this guy was phenomenal. And in my opinion anyway, he should be the starting All-Australian ruck. It was just so unexpected, wasn't it? Coming back from a knee, never really had ultimate premium scoring history before. I can't really understand how this happens, but just congratulations to the big man on a ripper season. Tickles at loop type. Darcy, look, the big Shrek was super disappointing again. I got that nice ceiling, not a ceiling game, but a really nice game from the week before with that 140, 150 type. But apart from that, I got like a 120, a 117, and then just some 60s, 80s, 90s type scores. Just did not see what we saw last year. And that's the reason why I brought in this man for just a couple of those big games. I thought, come on. I'm just waiting for it to come. But unfortunately, they just didn't. And I'm talking about those 180, 190 type games. If you look back at his history last year, yeah, he was a bad man at times. So, yeah, didn't get too bad this year for us. And into the forward line, well, Bont, Dunks, Parker, Cogs, Brody and English. Pretty solid line up there. But when I go through my trade history, my forward line could have been close to complete even before the buys. I just made a couple of interesting trade-outs that I regret anyway. But the Bont was fantastic. Got some great scores from him. I didn't really get a low score. His floor was really, really high for me since I had him in the side, and just a super consistent season. We know that he's been carrying injury. He's been sore for the majority of 2022, let's be honest, but he just keeps on soldiering on every week. That is what you call a captain. Bont, geez, wouldn't you love to have him leading your club? Dunkley, he really hit back in the last 3 to 4 weeks. We're really concerned. He had a 3-week stretch where he couldn't go above a 65, basically, but he really hit hard home. 563,800 to end, 108 for a season average. I think that I will start him again next year. I expect him to be available in the forward line, so I just think he's one of those no-brainer picks that you can just lock in. Had his low moments, had his big moments. Yeah, averaged really well at the end of the day for me. Parker was solid without being absolutely brilliant. He gave me a couple of good scores, but didn't see a huge ceiling from him. It seems with these players, they have a massive game the week before I actually get them in and then sort of taper off a little bit. But yeah, not too bad, not too good, just an average type pick, I think, Parker. Cogs, well, I started with the man, traded him out. He then scored really, really well for 2 out of the next 3 weeks. Then I decided to trade him back in. So I played this terribly, but I just got spooked. I had my reasons for doing it. I won't go through it all now. It's almost bringing back bad memories, but I thought at the time it's probably logical to trade out Cogs. I knew it was a bit of a gamble given the fact that it was Cameron's last game. They were getting a new coach in. Maybe there could have been a change of role for Cogs, which was, at the end of the day, what eventuated. But it was just a bad call on my behalf. But what a starting pick he was. Ended up with a 100-plus average for the season. Some of us may have actually predicted this. I didn't think he'd go 100. I thought maybe a 90 to a 95 would be a really, really good result for us. But he's ended up being absolute keep material. Yeah, great if you start him at the price. I think most of us does. One of the most highly selected players, I think, start the season. And Will Brodie, he'd have to be the best starting pick that any of us started with, wouldn't he? 133 to end the season. Average more than Cogs, 102.4. So I thought maybe a 75, 80 at the absolute peak for Will Brodie. But he just kept on soldiering on, didn't he? Really did, along with Andy Brayshaw, carry this Fremantle midfield throughout the season. He did have some low games. His time on ground was terrible, but we know that. We know what we're getting ourselves into with the pick. But points per minute wise, he was one of the best in the game, I think, this year. So I was rapt to start with him, rapt that I was able to finish with him as well. And if you can manage to do this with some of your starting picks at a cheap price, those value type picks, then you're saving yourself maybe 2 to 4 trades, which is really, really handy by the end of the year. And, if you think to yourself what you could have done with 4 extra trades maybe in the last month, then, that may sort of sway you to maybe look for a bit of value again next year. And English, this was an absolute train wreck bringing English in. I traded him out for Heaney. I've done some of the maths, and it's scary, scary reading. So I thought this would be one of the best upgrades that I'd make during the season. Thought he can obviously cover in the rucks. There were heaps of injuries during the rucks this year. A really unpredictable and disappointing, I think, line for me this year. But disappointing, he was injured. He came back. He gave me, I think, 200 to 300s, and that was it. Didn't really do anything for my side. So, a failed pick, Tim English. Will I look at him next year? I'll take a look at him. He's definitely not on my blacklist whatsoever, because I do see potential with the pick. And if you maybe take out some of those concussion games, coming back from injury, etc., then that season average should have been in around a 110, I think, for me. Patton McCartan, I pretty much talked about him before, but super reliable, great cover. Obviously started with him and held him right until the end. Only frustrating thing being that when I actually needed him towards the end of the season, gave me, a really average type score. And when he was on the pine, obviously that's when he scored big, but you can't control that sort of stuff. And Roses was a bit of a nothing type pick. End up with a 74, which was at his best score of the season. I definitely would have been a top 3, I think. But one of those players, again, was sort of in and out with injury, COVID, etc. Didn't really need him at the end of the day. So that is how the team ended up. I'll go through my trade history now and talk about some of my good ones and some of my bad ones. So before we take a look at my trade history, we'll have a look at how my season panned out. Round 1, the season rank was 37,227. That almost gets divided by 3 in round 2, 12,000. Then I take another hit, 17k. Then we go all the way up to 4,205. Again, down to about 10k. But after that, I pretty much went up, as you can see there, 3.5, 4, 3, 3, 3, 5, and then 2,050. So round 16, I was looking pretty good, I thought, anyway, for a top 1k finish. But from round 16 to round 2021, it was pretty much downhill from there. So 2,050, 2,096, again only 46 spots, 2,336, 2,432, so you lose 70 spots there. 25.11, almost the same. 25.91, 80 spots there. So it was just down, down, down for a little while. Not disaster type stuff, but I just didn't see any of those green arrows. But then fortunately from 25.91 in round 21, had a really nice round in round 22, end up 21.66. And then again, a solid round to end the season. The first time this year I've actually been inside the top 2k. And look, I'm not wrapped with that finish, particularly last year after finishing in the top 200. It's certainly a step back, but it was definitely a year of learnings. We had new rules, the boosts, a number of different changes to the game. So I think we'll all be better off for the experience. And I'll talk about it a little bit when I get to my lessons learned anyway, because yeah, for me, there was a lot of learnings during this season and a bit of experimentation as well, not knowing, what to do with the boosts and the best way to allocate them during the season. I'll just zoom out a little bit here so we can now look to my trades here. So round 3, I obviously didn't make a trade round 1 or 2. I always usually wait until the first price rises unless there's any type of injuries. So out went Gawn, Berry, and McGovern. McGovern was one of the blokes, unfortunately, that did get injured. And in came Witts, Cripps, and Heaney. So would I change it? Well, not really, because at the time, Heaney was on fire. I really actually wanted to start with him, just couldn't fit him in at the end of the day. Decided to start with Butters over Heaney. Cripps was on fire. It was pretty much a must-have there. Everyone was jumping on him, and it was probably more of a risk not to get on him at that stage. And Witts is arguably my best trade in the year. I got this bloke in for 380k. He got all the way to, was it around 650? Did he get that high? I think he might have. Just a phenomenal trade in for me there. So Berry, that was really hard because he's basically my favourite player. But with what we saw in the first couple of weeks, I thought that probably that ceiling isn't quite there. I wasn't really sold with his role. I thought it would be a little bit different going to the season. And I didn't think I'd probably make as much on Berry as I did. He ended up getting to a pretty decent price, but by then most people have already traded him out. Gawn, he went on to score pretty well, but would I have rather had Gawn at 657 or Witts at 380? Definitely Witts at 380 with what he produced. You're saving basically 300k there, or 250 plus. So I'm still really happy with all those trades. In round 4, it was a bit of a no-brainer. Out deal Stevens. He just wasn't getting a game. And in comes Nick Martin. You just had to get him in. Hoff out, O'Driscoll in. Again, I paid up a little bit more for him, but I thought that I had to. Had that nice DPP as well. Didn't go overly well for me, but made enough for it, I think, to be worthwhile. Round 6, out went Heath Chapman, who was a bit of an interesting starting pick. It was a bit of a panic pick because I'd locked Kitty Coleman into that spot. And then, as we know, did his hammy and just didn't feature early on. So he was very up and down, gave me a couple of really decent scores and then a couple of stinkers. So I thought at one stage he's going to be a super money maker. But then, as I said, just a bit of a yo-yo there. Rowley, I had massive hopes for. After round 1, I thought, here we go, could even be a keeper, but just didn't pan out that way. Traded him out for 401k. And Grundy, this was actually the week that he did get injured. So I'd actually decided to make a bit of a play. And wouldn't you know it, he gets injured the same week. So, yeah, a bit of crystal ball stuff from me there. But pretty happy with these trades, to be honest. Sicily, absolutely wrapped with that. Got him in at just over 500k. And we know what he did for the rest of the season. Absolutely phenomenal trade, that one. Bruce, that worked out extremely well. He was a fantastic cash cow, getting him in at just over 200k. And Roses was an interesting one. Would you call him successful? Probably not. But, didn't overly need to use him. Round 7, we go Cherry out, Rochelle out, and Hayes out. And how's this? Oliver in, Steele in, and Sam Hayes in. So that was obviously Jack Hayes out, Sam Hayes from Port in. Oh man, well, Oliver worked out extremely well. That was fantastic. But the second trade didn't. And again, I thought I was a genius with this. Making the money, getting the money in the bank by trading out Grundy for Bruce. The week before he got injured as well, I thought was such a good move. And Steele at this time had returned and he was just up. His scoring pattern was just on the upwards trend, and I thought that would be a fantastic move to get him in, a bit of a pot at that stage, but simply did not work out, and I paid $650 for him. And the thought behind that at the time was the fact that he was looking so good, he just wasn't looking like throwing in a bad score, and it will be a number of weeks before I'd be able to get him in. So I just thought, I'm just going to bite the bullet. I've made a bit of a play here with Grundy. I've got the cash in the bank. I'm going to spend it on an absolute uber elite. And then I think he gave me 100, a couple of 70s, and gets injured. So just didn't work out well. That was a real season definer, that one there. Round 8, out Horn Francis, out Dixon in Macomb and Parker, so that was all good. Sorry, get out of it. Sorry, what have I done there? No, we're back. That was all good. Round 9, out O'Driscoll, Hinge and Ward. Ward was just a really, really frustrating and underwhelming starting pick for me. I wasn't even interested in him pre-season, but then he obviously played that really, really strong match in the pre-season, got 100 plus, and everyone, just had to lock him in. You had to lock him in at that stage after seeing that performance, so super disappointing there. And then, wow, what a week this was for rookies. Rioli, Carroll, and then I got Track in round 9. So 559k, I thought at the time was a pretty decent price. Probably got what I paid for there. But that, sorry, I've done it again. But that week there for rookies was a real killer because we were expecting Rioli, Carroll, or Hamilton to feature in the buys, and they simply didn't when we needed them and when we needed to rely on them most. So why do I keep doing this? I really, really apologise. All right. Round 10, I'll try to get through this a little bit quicker. So round 10, this is a bit of a killer. Out Steele, out Cogs. That was simply the wrong move. And out Whitfield. I should have got rid of Whitfield probably before the first price rise. That may be one thing that would have changed, is getting Whitfield out instead. And in came Doherty, who was a successful selection for me. Clark, well, it was a no-brainer at the time. And Brayshaw, who was just a solid pick without being fantastic, as I mentioned. This was a great one. Round 11, out went Martin and in came Sinclair. I probably should have done that the week before. But, getting Sinclair in round 11, at least I had him for half the season. And really, as I mentioned before, didn't put a foot wrong. Then we looked to round 12, and this was an absolute killer. Look at the two blokes that I trade out here. Isaac Heaney and Dacos. Heaney for 462, Dacos for 363. And who do I bring in? Shrek Darcy for 581 and English for 597. So let's just round it for 600 to 600k each. I almost basically spent 1.2 mil on bringing in Darcy and English. And we all know what they did since round 12. And we all know what Heaney did. We know what Dacos did. I've actually got the pad here because I can't remember this off the top of my head. So in round 12, right, this is, well, basically after I traded out Heaney, this is what he produced. So where are we here? A 96, 124, 57, 67. So you're looking pretty good there. 112, 104, 106, 104, 121, 109, 114. So after I traded him out, a nice solid 101 average. Dacos, I traded him out at 363k. After I traded him out, what does he go? A 113, a 112, a 93, a 143, a 99. This is killing me. A 163, a 79, 77, 129, and then taped off little 62, 81 for an average of 104.6. The average at the time of trade that he was giving me was a 77.9. So season killers there. We'll look at English. I bring the bloke in at almost 600k, and he gives me an 80, a 110, gets injured, and the scores that I had in place of him was Paddy McCartan. He gave me 59 to 51. So 80, 110, 59, 51, 97, 51, 122. Beautiful. Thank you very much, mate. 79, 86, 88, and a 102 for an 84 average. So that is an absolute season killer. So talk about my worst trades of the year. It was certainly, without a doubt, trading out Stephen Canelio before he went really, really big, average score, and again really big. Had to trade him back in. I lost so many points. I don't even want to think about it there. I don't even want to do the maths because it does hurt. And obviously trading out Dacos, I decided to trade him out over De Koning. And what a bad move it was. My advice all year to people was keep on to Dacos until his buy. He'll be fantastic cover. I just tried to get too smart. Oh, yeah, it was just a terrible move. So really regret that one. I wish I just had kept on to Heaney, kept on to Dacos. They could have just been keepers. It took me, I don't know, how much did I spend there? So basically 140k and 2 trades to go from Heaney to English. Really, really frustrating, but it is what it is. Round 13, out went Wits, and I decided to get Nankin. That looked like a really, really solid move for about 4 weeks, and then had to get him out, as you know. Out went De Koning, out went McComb, and this would be close to my best trade in of the season. Zach Merritt at 520k. We know the tear that this man went on, so really happy with that. Around 14, out went Sam Hayes, McDonald, who did bugger all for me during the season, and Carroll, who did absolutely nothing as well. Got Cogs back in. Massimo was a really nice trade in, and Teakle as well. Disappointed that he ended up injuring himself. Poor bugger. He was looking pretty solid during that game as well. Round 15, Zach Butters, I thought, must trade out, and then Bontempelli comes in, so stoked about that one. And back to this one as well. Instead of Cogs, originally I wanted to get Libba there, but decided to go against that due to the fact that I knew that I'd need money to go from Butters to Bont, because I think at this stage I knew that Butters was injured. I had that information. So I sort of set that trade up there, which was good. Nank out, Wits in. And then round 20, oh, sorry. Oh, man, I keep on doing that. And then in round 20, Georgie Hill, who was a super servant for me. Again, probably very close to my best starting pick. You can't go past Will Brodie, though. Out goes Hewitt, in goes Stewart. We talked about how that didn't work out. Out Greg Clark and Kelly, bit of a nothing pick. Round 21, I wish that I had have traded out Jack Crisp, but it was Jaden Short in for Dawson, so I certainly did still win with that trade. And then round 23, out Sinclair and in Shannon Hearn. And I wish that I didn't do that one because, yeah, Sinclair was just fantastic for me. So, they're my best trades, my worst trades. Let me know what your best and worst trades were. I don't know if I'll be able to compete with yours, but I'd be really interested to hear from you. So, look, I've pretty much gone through everything now, haven't I? So, gone through the team, talked about some of the best trades, worst trades, looked at my team history. Probably now we'll talk about some of the lessons learned. The first lesson I'll talk about here is the fact that if you identify a player as a must-have player, then find a way to bring him into your side. It needs to be a non-negotiable. Now, that player for me this year was Mr. Rory Laird. Each and every week in the stock market video, I recommended to bring him in. I said he's a must-have. Find a way to do it. But for some unknown reason, I just didn't take on my own advice. There were times during the year where I had the money in the bank, I had the trades available, but I just put it off. I thought, no, I'm going to go with a cheaper option now, and then I'll get to Rory Laird. I'll get to him at some stage, but it comes to a point in time where these guys just become out of reach. And once he got to high 600s, above 700, there was just nothing that I could do about it. So he really, really hurt me this year. And to be quite honest, I think he cost me any chance I had of going near the top 1K, because as an anti-pod each week for my side, it was just pain. It got to the point where I couldn't even watch an Adelaide Crows game because I just knew that he'd dominate. His teammate as well, Jordan Dawson, was very, very, very close to being a must-have also, in my opinion. There was a time during the year where he just went on an absolute mad stretch and was averaging as well as premium midfielders. So those two blokes in particular was super damaging to my side. So lesson learned, if you identify, or if I identify, this is a lesson for myself, but you may be in the same boat. But for me, if I identify a player that is absolutely tearing it up consistently, is an uber elite, make sure you get them in basically at any cost, because by not bringing them in, it's probably going to hurt you even more. The next lesson that I learned this year is how important value actually is. Now, when it comes to setting up my team most years, I tend to use a bit of a bits of structure. So I don't tend to go your traditional absolute guns and rookies approach. I think that you've got to throw a few mid prices in and look for a bit of value. But if this year has taught us anything, it's the fact that value is absolute key. Now, the issue with value is that it can be very, very hard to find. If you start with, say, 5 to 6 mid prices in your team, generally the odds are going to be you'll nail 3 of those or 4 of those picks. Very rarely do you see many coaches nail every one of the value picks. So that is a risk in it. And the other thing that we've always got to take into account before we focus too much on value, I suppose, is that every season's different. You know, the value options that we had this year won't be the value options that we're presented with next year. We've got a host of different names. Will there be, reliable options like we thought that we'd get this year? Maybe, maybe not. We'll talk about all that just before we get the team picker when it comes to 2023. But yeah, that is one thing that you certainly can't skimp those value picks. If you didn't start with, say, George Hewitt, Sicily, Will Brodie, and Cogs, then you're pretty much in trouble. There was only one bloke that I didn't start with, that was Sicily. Got him in round 5 or 6, as you would have seen just before. I had to prioritise to get him in. But if you're even down 3 of those blokes, you were just in really, really big trouble right from the start of the season. So make sure that you nail those value picks nice and early. The next lesson is in regards to a loophole. So I decided not to run with loop this year and go with the old theory that the loop will work itself out. It did. Believe me, it did. And we were very, very... we were struggling at times, weren't we, to even field 22 players. But what really did hurt me was not having that loop early on and being able to take advantage of some really nice vice captaincy scores. And I think that having points on field is just more important than ever these days. And the fact that I couldn't take advantage of some of those early rookie scores. I didn't get Rochelle's early score. I didn't get the Jack Hayes score. And it was the same the year before that. I missed out on Golden. There was someone else as well. And that really did set me back. And that was a big reason for that, 37k rank by the end of round 1. So another lesson for me is that I'm probably going to go back to my old ways and start a loophole. I know that Spills did this year, and that really, really helped him. Don't get me wrong, there'll be those weeks where you are struggling for cover, and you think to yourself, damn, why did I do it? We also need to make money, I understand that, but I think that points on field that a loop can give you, a good loop that has those late games with DPP status, can be really, really beneficial. And I suppose, well, there's so many lessons to go through, but probably the other one that I'll quickly touch on is the use of the boosts. Now, there's never just one right way to use them, because this is definitely circumstantial. But one thing that I'm really going to try to plan for next year is to save a couple of boosts for the buys, because that could really get you out of jail. It's a time where we're making some of our final upgrades. What I suppose the disadvantage of saving your boosts is the fact that the people that use them early will obviously upgrade quicker than you and have more premiums in the side earlier. But I think if you play that waiting game, make sure that you're right during the buys. That's probably a strategy that I'm going to look at next year. So we've learned a lot, haven't we, this year with the new rules. I don't know what you think. Maybe if you could give me some ideas in the comments section about how you think you're going to use your boosts to the best effect next year. I'd be really interested in hearing that. But for me, definitely leave a couple until the buys. Maybe one for an absolute rainy day, and the other 2 I might just get nice and aggressive with even earlier on the season. And I think that before the first price rises, if you've made a couple of dodgy picks, it's always good to maybe use a booster there just to make a major correction if you need to, before those prices change. Because if you don't, one player could go right up and one player could go right down, and it could hurt you for the rest of the season. And before I let you go for 2023, I did want to give some special thank yous. Firstly, thank you to anyone that has watched your channel during the year. Your support is much appreciated. Thank you again to any of our subscribers to the channel. Without you, the channel wouldn't continue to run. I never asked for subscribers, but if you are watching and you're not subscribed, that would be much appreciated. I think last time I looked, about 70% of the viewers weren't subscribed, so I don't know how that actually works. There must be some sort of glitch in the system, but thanks everyone that has managed to subscribe during the year. And a very, very special thank you to all of the members of the channel. To become a member of the channel, it is $3.99 a month, so basically $1 a week. And all of the proceeds, 100% of the member proceeds, go direct to Beyond Blue. So I'm going to do a final count probably in the next 2 months to see where we've actually got to there, and maybe do a separate video on that. But without you guys, we wouldn't have raised any money for charity this year. So thank you so much, and thanks again particularly to those blokes that are heavily involved in our members chats, our video chats. It's been an absolute blast doing that with you every week, guys, and your friendship is just fantastic. So if there are any members that are watching at the moment that haven't been involved in that, make sure that you send me a message, guys. I'll send you through the link. I'll send you through all the stocky notes each week, and I'm doing something special for the members next year. Each and every one of the members that I do read out now, you're actually going to get a free entry into a Dead Man's Cash League next year. If you haven't heard of a Dead Man's League before, I will do a separate video on that, but you all get free entry to that for your support of the channel this year. And it is a cash league as well. Should be a fair prize on offer. So, look, let's get into these names here, because I'm sure that I'm probably boring you by now. But look, the first couple of blokes here, I've known for a fair while, and we're just straight onto the channel there. You can see that they have been the longest serving members here for 5 months, and that is Causa Blackledge and John O'Carroll. So, two absolute legends that I am in communication with a fair bit. Lots of video chats and all the rest. Top blokes, thank you very much for your support, guys. It is much appreciated. A couple of absolute legends there. Rickaby G, was great to see you for a video chat as well, mate. Thank you very much for all your support. Does mean the world again. Charm and Kenny Stockdale, you guys have been... Can I actually go up here? Might have to zoom out again, actually. I will have to zoom out and get some more names. There we go. Hang on, can I go back? Yes, I can. Sorry. No, we're up the top now. We'll go back again. Charm and Kenny Stockdale, thank you very much. Really appreciate your support, guys. It does mean the world, as I said. Cody, now, is it Kejo? I'm not too sure how to pronounce that one, Cody, but thanks for your 4-month membership, mate. Just phenomenal there. Zachary, thank you very much, champion, as well. Colin Young, been great to chat with you, Colin. Congratulations on the great season as well, buddy. Carl Meany, I've been in contact with Carl for the last couple of years now. You're an absolute legend of the channel, mate. Thank you very much for your support. I haven't really heard from you, but, mate, the fact that you've been a member for 4 months does really mean the world for me, mate. And you've managed to raise a bit of money for Beyond Blue as well. So thank you very much, my man. Big H, Harry, one of my absolute favourites. Basically talk with H each and every week, get on the video chats and all the rest. So, mate, the best thing about it was getting to know you really well, and I consider you an awesome mate now, H. So thanks very much, mate. Nicky Nugent as well, thanks for your comments as well, mate. That has been absolutely fantastic. Ray McPherson, great to see you as well, Ray. And again, mate, great to have some comments and banter with you. Benny Leonard, 4 months as well, means the absolute world, Benny. Hopefully you got those stocky notes as well, mate, and they've been handy. My man Gruffy, so Gruffy is a super coach himself. I had a feeling he was doing a little bit of content as well, so if you're still doing that, Gruffy, make sure you pop that down in the comment section there, buddy, as well. Cormac Pete, I think you're pretty new to SuperCoach as well, mate, from what you were saying, so congratulations, mate, on one of your first seasons as well. Hope you had a really good one to end, buddy. DM to Devlin, thank you very much as well, champion. Not sure how you finished up, mate. Let me know how you did. Hopefully the stock market videos helped a little bit for you as well, mate. Ethan Davies for the last couple of months, low with Rohit as well. Thank you very much, guys, for coming in late. Hopefully you enjoyed it towards the end of the season. Would love to see you back again next year, guys. And Mr. Benny Butcher, you've also been on for 5 months as well, mate, along with Jono and Causa. So I've known Benny, not in real person, but I've been chatting with Benny for the last few years, haven't we, mate? Congratulations on a ripper season as well, Benny. And look forward to all the conversations, and I really have appreciated all your support from day one, mate. So, look, that is it for the members. Thanks to all the other content creators that put their stuff out each and every week. Got a heap of YouTubers. You know my man Spills. Congrats to you, man, for your PB this year. Top 1%. Big J, you did awesome as well, mate. The Fantasy Take boys. Jono, jeez. JD, so I'm losing it now. I had JD and Eno in my head at the same time, but JD, Eno, George, obviously the goats there. Congratulations on the great season, guys, as well. All the Dr. Supercoach guys, Chizo in particular, some great chats with him, and thank you very much, guys, for a great listen every week. I know that I'm forgetting a heap of other people. The SuperCoach Edge boys as well was phenomenal with you guys. Thank you very much for inviting me onto the channel as well. Had an absolute blast with you blokes. I know that I'm forgetting other people as well. Super sorry if I am. There's a great Twitter community, you know, with Klopp and these guys as well, Frogger. There are so many guys that I will forget, and I'm just going to stop there because I do feel terrible if I have forgotten to give you a little shout out, because you all do mean the world to me, and thank you very much for all your support. I have absolutely banged on for this last 15 minutes, I reckon. I'm starting basketball in about 5 minutes, so I better leave it here for now, guys. Thanks again for a fantastic season. Congratulations on wherever you finished, and I'm already looking forward to 2023. So take care, guys. All the best. I'll see you again soon. Cheers, bye.